Greetings, everyone. Welcome again to Spinistry Chat. I am your host, Kevin Lee. Today, what we're doing an update on the progress of the basic training plan that I'm on to get my out of shape self back into decent riding shape. This is a long term project, and basically, this is the end of the first 12-week module. It's an example of stuff that's worked for me in the past, not when I've been this far out of shape, though, and something that I think could be useful to others if maybe you have some of the same hurdles that I had. And most people, I expect, will have hurdles to a lesser extent. This is not for people that are race training. This is not for people that are already in really good endurance shape and are wanting to take it kind of to the next level. This is a progression that where I'm starting now is starting from zero, massively overweight, massively out of shape, been off the bike for a long time, uh, been, uh, been off the bike for a number of years, basically after getting hit by a car. The recovery process finally, February of 2021, I had some knee surgery done that allowed me to start considering to get back on the bike. Plan was to start back in spring, but kind of a return to normalcy on outdoor events. We had to quickly get back up to speed on putting on events, which at the time I didn't think was we were going to be getting to that level that quickly. We're there, so I had to adjust to start my own training regimen. Here's the snapshot starting on June 14th, and I'm on my Training Peaks calendar. Uh, Starting on June 14th, I started a diet. The focus is weight loss. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. I was, it's an estimate, 275 pounds. I think it's a pretty fair estimate. I didn't have an accurate scale, and quite frankly, I was too embarrassed to step on a scale at that point. But I know I was like 268 or 269 at the time of my surgery, and I know I put on a few pounds after that. So I think it's safe to say 275, maybe a couple pounds lighter. Realistically, maybe a few pounds heavier. But anyway, we're going to call it 275 on June 14th. And the focus on the front end of this is to lose weight. And so for me, diet is a very important component of that. So on June 14th, I started on a diet first to get that routine and regimen going. And knowing that I needed to work exercise into the equation somewhat, but I needed to establish discipline on the diet side first. So in June, we started on the diet. I wanted to prove to myself that I was going to follow through with that and be somewhat successful on that. In July, I incorporated a little bit of exercise, uh, utilizing a rowing machine just to start being somewhat active again. Not a whole, nothing crazy or strenuous or anything like that. And then in August is when we started the cycling routine. And I'm going to kind of walk through this a week at a time. It starts out super, super basic. And it's all about progression. And it's not about going into the pain cave or making yourself hurt. It's all about doing things logically. And for me, again, the focus is on losing weight on the front end. I need to lose so much weight that I can't risk getting too deep into the cycling aspect of things in the endurance cycling. That's the long-term goal, is to get back into endurance cycling shape and mode properly. But I know from my own previous struggles with that, it's really difficult for me to combine losing weight and building up ultra endurance. So this time around, the plan is to focus on dropping the weight first and then building the ultra endurance, hopefully, so that in realistically rough ballpark 6 months of training on the bicycle side, where hopefully I'll be in shape enough to attempt anything I want to do. And that's the focus of this as well, is to show people that it doesn't take a lot. It just takes a basic structure that you follow through with and stay on top of, and don't overcommit along the way and basically hurt yourself and take yourself off the bike or burn yourself out. Over the first 12 weeks, I think I established a pretty decent base, a platform to start working from. And the reality is the next 12 weeks is to kind of take it up to that next level. And, that gives us roughly 6 months. I think I'll likely be comfortable to go out and do a century ride at a decent pace, not race pace by any stretch of the imagination. A multi-day adventure, not a week, but maybe 2 or 3 days, sort of thing. And that's kind of where I wanted to be at 6 months after I started on the training on the bicycle. It's really simple. It's really basic. It's extraordinarily basic. And I know a lot of people are going to go, well, that's not going to work. It's not enough hours on the bike. It's not enough intensity. But the whole point is to not get burnout, and the whole point is to not hurt yourself along the way. Now, as we get deeper into this, and hopefully as my progress gets to that point, we'll start up in the intensity, we'll start up in the duration, we'll incorporate some intervals and things like that. And somewhere down the road, power will be a focus, but we're way too early in the process to be concentrating on power. This is heart rate zone centric right now. So basically all you need is a bicycle and a heart rate monitor and a way to stay on top of it, and a watch. So here's the super basic layout of it. To get started, the first 12 weeks, the whole point is just to get in the habit of riding again and to create the discipline to force yourself to ride when you think you don't want to. So the idea is plan to ride every day, whatever it takes. The route I'm having to go for various reasons, I'm very, very indoor cycling centric at the moment. I want it to get to the point where I can go outdoors again. But there's no doubt about it. Smart trainers and Zwift, for me, make all the difference in the world. It's as simple as this. Ride every day. Try to ride every day. You don't schedule days off, okay? Life is going to happen. It's going to make days off happen. You ride every day, 60 minutes a day at a low intensity pace. And for each of us, that's going to be a little bit different. But zone one, think of it as that, where you're not breathing hard. You can talk to people. You're not drenched in sweat at the end of the ride. We're not at that level yet. We're starting out at just a very basic, low level intensity. After a couple of weeks, you kind of get into the mode. And so where my first 12 weeks kind of lined up, generally speaking, was 60 minutes a day, between 110 120 beats per minute on the heart rate monitor. This is for the people that have been off the bike and need to get back on the bike, or people that are wanting to build up that basic endurance. This works for people that maybe you're riding once or twice a week, but you don't feel like your endurance is there. Keep riding your once or twice a week that you're already doing. Don't change anything there. Just all of those other days of the week, find a way to start getting in the habit of getting on the bike for 60 minutes a day. For a lot of people, definitely in my world, smart trainers, indoor riding helps tremendously with that. To load up the bike and go to a trailhead or go to a place where I feel comfortable riding my bicycle and then driving back and unloading and all, that eats up a lot of time in the day. But most of the time, somewhere around the house, I can find an hour to hop on the bike and knock out some time. And so this is a representation. These are my actual workouts week to week, starting in September. And you can see it's roughly an hour each time on the bike. Sometimes I'll have a rest day, but even my rest days, if there's a couple spots in here, it's like I was tired. I didn't feel like riding that day, but I forced myself to do it. And then you even take it down to like a zone 0. You just go ahead and you pedal the bike for 45 minutes at the most casual pace imaginable. That is still a rest. And getting your circulation going, even on a rest day like that, the vascular contractions, things along those do make a difference. They help you flush the system. They make you feel better. And even if you're too tired to go on a real ride, just go ahead and spin your legs for 45 minutes or so. At least 30 minutes, but 45 to 60 minutes is still a little better. And trust me, you're gonna feel really good about that. I do have some rows in here as well where I did do a little bit of rowing. So basically, we're just going to scroll through it week to week. Oh, and sorry. And here's my weight update. So again, I started at 275, basically uh, focusing on just the diet and minimal exercise. I lost almost 30 pounds by the time I started the bicycle regimen. And that was kind of my goal. I wanted to get down below 250 before I got on the trainer and the exercise bike and things like that. Quite frankly, most cycling stuff is rated for a max of 250 pounds, generally speaking. If you're riding stuff over 250, you run a much higher risk of catastrophic failures and stuff breaking on you. But I could have just kept losing weight on the diet, and I probably would lose weight faster. But I miss riding my bike, so I had to start riding, and I knew I was going to have to balance the additional exercise and the diet, and the more you exercise, the hungrier it makes you feel, and having to deal with that. So after a couple weeks, weight kind of stabilized, 246. Had a, I think I kind of spoiled myself here and maybe worked out a little more intensive than I really should have, sort of thing. Added a couple pounds, and that's when I got back on focus and started following the discipline of the low intensity, regular duration sort of thing. At some point, this is going to turn into low intensity, high duration, where we do super long rides in the mix. I'm not quite there yet, but for some of y'all that maybe that's where your next goal is. Incorporating this riding every day, just 60 minutes a day or less on top of what you're already riding, I can assure you, definitely within the 12 weeks, most people probably less. Uh, if you're not up to 6, 8 hour rides, 10-hour rides right now, but you want to get there, if you're riding somewhat regularly now, like I said, a couple times a week, and maybe one of them's a 2 or 3 hour ride, maybe even less. I'm pretty confident that just incorporating just the 60 minutes a day, all the other days of the week that you're not riding, at a low intensity, that will get you there within 12 weeks, and probably less for most of y'all. So again, September 27th down to 244. And we had a couple of days here. This was my first week where I wasn't able to get in, uh, where I missed 2 days in the week. Talk about that a little bit in the longer video. Again, basically make yourself ride every day, because you never know when something unexpected is going to happen, and you're forced to not ride anyway. And as you can see, any of y'all that are familiar with training stress scores, TSS, you know, these are really low TSSs, low intensity rides, generally speaking. Every once in a while, I get a little froggy, jump in with a group or something like that, but I'm working on that. Down to 240, October, towards the end of October, October 25th, down to 238. 237 November 1st. And then down to 234. So lost 40 pounds. Then we had our Big Bend weekend and some other stuff. So I did run into an obstacle where I had a short week, 1 week, a short week the next week, but still getting in what I can. But I had several days without any riding. There was some hiking and stuff in there, but definitely not as much as I would like. So, this was the end of the first 12 weeks. So we were really good for 10 weeks. The last 2 weeks, off the plan a little bit, but still riding when we can. Like here, I had a rest day incorporated, 46 minutes at a 13 TSS, just turning the legs there. This was the end of the 12 weeks here on the 21st. And then my goal after that 12 weeks was to do my first long outdoor ride. Uh, Going into Thanksgiving was the plan. It worked out that I did it the Friday after Thanksgiving. So on the 26th, uh, I basically did about 4 hours of riding, split up over two different rides. And to be perfectly honest, I felt I felt I could have gone on for another couple hours pretty easily. Obviously, that can change in a few minutes. You think you're good for another couple hours of riding, and 5 minutes later, it's like, oh no, I'm done. Um, but even on that long ride, I was focusing on uh, staying at that 120 beats per minute rate, which I'd been training at. And the nuts and the bolts of it is, if you train for 6 hours a week for 12 weeks, spread out over the course of an hour a day, basically, even starting from zero, you should be good for a 6 hour ride at that target heart rate. Training for 6 hours a week, even if it's just an hour a day, puts you in a position to ride for 6 hours at a time at that same heart rate. Again, my target is 120. Another podcast will talk about how that was determined, and everyone's going to be a little bit different on what that heart rate target is and what the progression should be from there. But I was completely comfortable riding my bike for well over 2 hours continuous and just going along, and felt like I could have gone on longer. And I had actually every intention of riding a longer day that day. Just like we've said, life happens. Stuff came up, had to be taken care of, had to put the bike away and come home. So I'm looking forward to the next ride. That is a long ride. That said, after that ride, after that long ride day, I was hungry through the weekend. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. So I don't think I'm in a position yet to incorporate a long ride like that each week, as much as I would like to. I think physically, my stamina, and things like that, my fitness level would allow for it now. I could, if my focus wasn't to lose weight, if my focus was to build endurance, I could easily go ahead and say, yeah, we're going to incorporate a 3 hour ride into the equation each week. And every once in a while, I'll throw a 6 hour ride, something like that. But with me focusing on the weight loss and needing to manage my appetite, I cannot incorporate those long rides yet. And I still need to pay most attention to my weight loss goal. But what I am going to be doing, and we weighed in again the other day, 233, picked up a pound over Thanksgiving, and eating extra after the long ride, getting refocused on diligence on the diet, and the way I'm going to do it for the coming weeks, going into the next 12-week block. The first 3 weeks of it, I'm going to. My current plan is to stay on the daily ride regimen, but see if I can take that target heart rate up. Uh, like I said before we were kind of in the 110 to 120 range, and it started out closer to 110 most of the time, eased up to 120. Now I'm going to try to target a 130 heart rate and just do my daily rides at that intensity. So the short story is this: 12 weeks from zero And if my focus were just to be able to knock out a 100K ride, I would have been perfectly fine with that. I wouldn't have been the fastest at it by any stretch of the imagination, but going at a comfortable pace, the 120 beats per minute, um, seriously felt like I could have just pedaled that all day long. Um, Going forward for the next 3 weeks, I'm going to stay on. Well, for the next 12 weeks, I'm going to stay on the 6 hours a week. I'm not going to increase my overall ride time more than the 6 hours yet. So I'm going to get basically 6 months of training, no more than 6 hours a week, which I think is completely manageable for most riders. What I'm likely to do after the first 3 weeks, after I up my intensity a little bit, if I'm still maintaining my weight loss and not having to jump through hoops to avoid hunger pains or anything like that, if that progresses decently, then probably after 3 weeks of taking that intensity up a little bit, I may shift one of the days to a 2 hour day and see if I can increase duration a little bit, but still target the 6 hours a week total, which will give a prescribed day off in the week, most likely. Um, I think I could force myself realistically to do 2 hours plus five, but I don't want to start increasing my total time yet. I want to see what the capability is at the 6 hours a week, and then after that next 12-week segment, we'll look into taking the total time up and demonstrate what's probably more realistically along the lines of what most people who are riding regularly now that want to go to that next level, where you're riding a couple times a week and maybe sprinkle in another ride here or there. And after the next 12 weeks, I'm hoping I'm kind of back in that mode myself, where I have one long ride a week, a second ride each week that's probably fairly high intensity, but not as long, and then use the other off days as just those low intensity days, like we were talking, to get that total fitness level up to the point where hopefully after 6 months I'm able to do any multi-day adventure I want to do, any single day length ride that I can fit into the daylight hours or whatever else. The goal is for me to be rat 1000 capable in 2022. I don't know that I'm going to actually do the rat myself, but I want to be in a position where if the opportunity arises, I can do the rat. But that's the whole point, is for everyone to always have that base fitness level just in place. So if something opens up, if your schedule opens up or an event pops up that, hey, that really sounds cool, instead of having to go, well, gee, I'm not in shape for that, always be in shape enough to do whatever comes across your plate is the focus here. This isn't for everyone. I'll be the first to admit that. You do you. But if you need a little help along the lines that you see me struggling with, shoot me a question, send me a message. I'm happy to give any straight and honest feedback and help y'all get to your goals as well. I'm looking forward to progressing to level 2 for myself, taking the intensity up a little bit, and somewhere along the way in December, as long as my weight's still going down like it should, I'll probably sneak in one long ride to see what I can pull off. 3 weeks from today is what, the 8th, 15th, 22nd. Yeah, somewhere that Christmas week, I might do a long something, uh, seeing what the weather allows for. So if you're open during the week, Christmas week, and want to tag along at a slow guy's pace for an all day ride of some sort, follow along on Spinistry. I'd love the company.